Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon News. I am Ed from bourbonobsessed.com, also known as Bourbon_Obsessed on Instagram. First, I just wanted to mention some of the new articles that we have over on bourbonobsessed.com. I recently attended the Kentucky Bourbon Festival and wrote a very comprehensive article about the festival itself and the things that I've learned about it, as well as some tips that will hopefully help you out when you're making your plans for next year. We also have a bunch of new reviews, including Remus Repeal Reserve Series 8, Mom and Green Unabridged Volume 3, Keeper's Heart Irish and Bourbon Cask Strength, and Bardstown Bourbon Company's new Discovery Series 12. Now let's move on to the news. First up, let's take a look at what's been going on at the James B. Beam Distilling Company. They've been coming out with new releases at a pretty frantic pace lately. Last month, they had announced Booker's Bourbon The Reserves, which is a new series of limited releases in the Booker's line, and Little Book The Infinite, which is the new brand extension to the Little Book line. Both of those were actually available for a limited time to be purchased at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. Since then, they have also quietly released the 2024 edition of Old Overholt Extra Aged Cask Strength 11-Year Rye. That comes in at 107.4 proof and is priced at $99.99. I really enjoyed last year's release and had the opportunity to try this year's as well, and it was also delicious. It's shown up at a couple of dinners and also in the American Outpost at the distillery. In addition, Old Grandad 16-Year, which comes in at 100 proof and is priced at $200, and Baker's High Rye Bourbon, which is a new limited edition to the Baker's line and is bottled at 107 proof and priced at $75. Both of those bottles have also been seen at the American Outpost and have shown up at least one of the Beam dinners, which took place at the Kitchen Table, the restaurant on the distillery campus. Next up, Woodford Reserve has released another in their distillery series. Just like the last release, there was no real advance notice and emails just showed up in the morning the day of the release. This latest release is Blended Malt Sherry Cask Finish, and it's a blend of Woodford Reserve malt whiskey that was aged in used oak and finished in Oloroso and Amontillado sherry barrels. It's available at the distillery as well as online if you live in Kentucky, D.C., Nebraska, New Hampshire, and North Dakota, as well as at select Kentucky retailers. It's bottled at Woodford's typical 90.4 proof and priced at $64.99 for a 375 milliliter bottle. That price has pretty much become the norm for these distillery series lately. It jumped up to that level for the Double Double Oaked in January and seems to have stayed there for all the other releases. Castle & Key has announced their 7-year cask strength wheated bourbon. It's made from a mash bill of 73% white corn, 17% malted barley, and 10% white winter wheat. 109 barrels were used to blend this batch. It's bottled at 105.8 proof and has an MSRP of $60. It will be available in select markets beginning in October, as well as at the distillery, starting with the official release, which takes place on October 12. They brought some of this to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and I had the opportunity to try it and thought it was quite delicious. I'll be getting a hold of a bottle of this for myself soon. Penelope Bourbon had quite a big announcement. They have what they're calling their 2024 Estate Collection. It's going to be a big change for the brand because instead of their usual 4 to 6 year aged offerings, all of these are 9 to 11 year aged. There are 3 different whiskeys in this series. First is the Founder's Reserve, which features 24 barrels of 11-year aged straight wheat whiskey divided into 5 separate batches, all at different proofs. That's going to be priced at $199. Next is Private Select, which is a blend of 9-year aged bourbons from 2 states. They don't mention the specific origin of the bourbons in the press release, but I'm sure that will be coming. Those are bottled at 101.2 proof and priced at $79.99. The last is Single Barrel, and that showcases 10-year aged bourbon with 2 different rye mash bill options 21% bottled at 98 proof, and 36% bottled at 105 proof. Both are priced at $89.99. These various releases will be starting to roll out now through November via various channels. This next one is pretty unique. American Metal Whiskey has launched The Disciple, which is a 90 proof Tennessee straight whiskey. But what's interesting about it is it was crafted using a patent-pending sonic infusion process. Now, there have been a number of distilleries that have used the sonic aging. Usually they play music quite loudly in their rickhouses through speakers. What makes this different is that the speaker is actually immersed into the whiskey. And the sound isn't music, it's the sound of a 1941 Harley-Davidson EL Knucklehead engine. So this is a pretty interesting take on sonic aging, and it'll be interesting to see how it affects the whiskey. As I mentioned, it's bottled at 90 proof and priced at $80. Lasso Motel Whiskey was founded by Devin Odell, president of Dynasty Spirits. Dynasty Spirits already has a large portfolio of spirits, and Lasso Motel Whiskey makes it considerably larger and adds high-end bourbon and other whiskeys to the portfolio. This brand came right out of the gate with a whole large line of whiskeys. First, there are 8 different finished whiskeys. They are based on Green River bourbon, are bottled at 100 proof, and are priced at $69.99. The finishes include Lestave, Sherry, Rosé, Port Cask, Tokaji, Naranja, Cognac, Mizunara, and Ambarana. In addition, there are a number of straight whiskeys. There's a 4-year-old 100 proof from Green River Distilling, priced at $44.99, and that may be a bourbon. An 8-year from Barton's 1792, bottled at 100 proof for $74.99, and I think that is a bourbon as well. A 18-year American straight whiskey from MGP using their 99% corn, 1% malted barley mash bill, and aged in used bourbon barrels. And last but not least is a 10-year-old single barrel rye from MGP, bottled at cask strength and priced at $89.99. So that's quite a large lineup for a new brand, and since they were kind enough to send me their whiskeys, I'll have some reviews coming soon. Russell's Reserve Single Rickhouse Camp Nelson B is the 3rd release in the Single Rickhouse series. This one is bottled at 120.2 proof, which is the highest proof ever for any Russell's Reserve. The barrels were selected from the 6th floor to best showcase the flavors typical of this rickhouse. It's available at select retailers now, and was actually available at the Wild Turkey Visitor Center earlier this week. I'm not sure if and when it will be there again, but it's probably worth checking. Price is $300. For all of you hot chocolate and bourbon fans out there, you're going to love this. Swiss Miss has partnered with Hotel Tango Distillery to create Swiss Miss Schmallow, a toasted marshmallow and cocoa-infused bourbon. What I didn't know was that Hotel Tango Distillery has already been producing this toasted marshmallow-flavored whiskey called Schmallow, so this is an interesting extension of the line for the holidays. It's bottled at 60 proof and priced at $27.99. Finally, Diageo and Stitzel-Weller Distillery have announced this year's release of Blade & Bow 22-year-old bourbon. The press release doesn't give many details about the whiskey, nor does it give the price. I guess the old saying goes, if you have to ask. However, the price would be expected to be at least $600 based on the MSRP from recent years. Nonetheless, if you just want to give it a try, there is a tasting experience available at the Garden and Gun Club at the Stitzel-Weller Distillery. That will run you $150 though for a 1-ounce pour. You do get to keep the crystal glass and some other swag, however. It's bottled at 92 proof. Well, that's it for this week's Bourbon Obsessed Distillery and Bourbon News. If there's anything else you would like included in the show, please let me know, since this is a work in progress. Also, you can check out the print version at bourbonobsessed.com, as well as sign up to have the newsletter mailed directly to your inbox every other week. Also, if you have enjoyed this podcast, please follow it in your favorite podcast app. Thanks, and have a great weekend. Cheers!